As Filipinos, we were taught to love whiter skin because traditionally, the colonial powers uplifted those with whiter skin to nobility. They felt that whiter skin equated to a much more improved lifestyle. And we learned that as long as we stayed brown-skinned Indios, we'd stand as lower-class citizens. American exceptionalism, the belief that American culture is exceptional or extraordinary, led to a study that identifies several negative psychological effects that impact the lives of Filipinos and Filipino Americans. According to E.J. David and Kevin Nadel, authors of The Colonial Context of Filipino American Immigrants' Psychological Experiences, says that American culture is highly glorified in Filipino culture. They state colonialism has fostered a perception that the standard of living in the U.S. is the mark of a highly sophisticated society and culture. For example, English is the preferred language used in school, government, and business in the Philippines. It especially demonstrates itself in that Filipinos also have an overwhelming preference for light skin. This shows that many Filipinos consider their own culture and appearance inferior to that of their Americans. Colonial mentality causes a serious impact on Filipino psychological well-being, as this mindset damages ethnic identity and the collective self-esteem of Filipinos. To elaborate, colonial mentality causes Filipinos to have a lack of pride in their native culture. This is evident in my own family, where my grandparents preferred to teach their daughters to speak English rather than Tagalog, because they felt that the Tagalog language would serve no use in their education. In addition to colonial mentality, another psychological phenomenon called social invisibility affects the lives of Filipinos and Filipino Americans. Filipinos are socially invisible as they develop their social identity through the misrecognition of their culture in U.S. history. Because the United States has the tendency to deny its missteps in the Philippines and asserts a reputation of innocence, Filipinos are infrequently recognized and represented in Western culture. Because of the widespread dispute as to whether the United States was justified in its conquest of the island nation, the Philippines is forgotten in historical discussions, damaging Filipino self-worth and racial identity. There is a lack of information that shows the struggles Filipinos underwent under colonial rule, resulting in historical amnesia, a failure of Filipino Americans to acknowledge the traumatic memories brought on by United States imperialism. This brings me to the question, why, in a country where the second largest Asian American ethnic group is Filipino, do the history books not emphasize the importance of the American colonization of the Philippines? We are taught about the Vietnam War, Korean War, and how the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, but the war that granted the Filipinos from America isn't as emphasized in the history books. Coming from a community where the majority of the population identifies as Filipino, I have a responsibility to not only educate myself, but bring awareness to this issue. We need more resources to fully understand and interpret this huge issue facing our community. With the perspective, I am Athena Ramoran.